Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Wasteland Radio. It has been a very, very long time since I've made one of these, and yeah, it's a little hard finding special guests to interview because a lot of them have lives, and it's very hard to pin down when you're going to interview them. So I decided to interview somebody who is well known. Well, he is to me, anyways, because he does vending and all that sort of stuff. And he's also the leader of a special meetup group called the Boston Bronies. Please help me welcome my guest here tonight, Rob Snuggle Trumpet.
Hey guys, what's up?
All right, so Rob, this is just going to be like a normal thing where I ask you some questions, and if any given point you want to ask me a question, that's fine. Is there anybody else you'd like to announce that are also here?
Well, we have two of the Boston Bronies kind of listening in. I may or may not ask them to chime in once in a while, depends. But hopefully we'll be able to hear a little bit from them. We got Seth and we got Teddy.
Hey guys. Hello.
Alrighty, shall we get started with these questions and
Sure.
try to give a more like an in-depth answer if you can?
Okay, I think I can go a little more than in-depth than just yes.
Alrighty. Alright, so I guess my first question would be, how did you get into this brony phenomenon?
Ass backwards would be the best way to explain it. So this one is a fun one. It started, I think, how many years back? 2013-ish? Yes. 2013. Probably like how a lot of people get into it. I was in a really bad time after a really bad breakup. And I always loved cartoons and stuff. And so I heard about this phenomenon. And I'm like, I don't know. I know I like cartoons. I like, what? I'll just listen to some of the music to it. And so I started listening to music. I think my very first one was Winter Wrap Up, and I was getting into it. One of my absolute favorites at the time, the Smile song, obviously. But my ultimate favorite, um, what had happened is I said, you know what? I'm going to give this show a chance. And I want my first episode to be my absolute favorite song. And that was A True Friend at the time. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, it's the middle of season 3. It's only episode 13. What's the worst that could happen, not knowing it was the absolute finale to the show? And the ultimate spoiler of the friggin' year. So that happened, and I'm like, oh, well then, and then I heard about BronyCon. Now I heard about it 2 weeks before the 2013's BronyCon, and I'm like, you know what? Heck with it. Let's go to BronyCon. Let's see what this is all about because I've attended a lot of cons. I love cons. So I managed to get the time off from work. It was really just I had the weekend the weekend coming up off, and the week after I was working, and I just switched with someone where I got that week off. And I got to go to BronyCon, still not being a brony. I wasn't convinced. I'm like, yeah, the show's good and all. And I get there, and I will say, walking in for the first time, not gonna lie, I'm like, I get into the hallway where they're getting their hotel rooms and everything, and my very first thought was, I just made a big mistake. But after having that entire weekend, it was so much fun, such a blast. I didn't know what the hell Pink Fluffy Unicorns was at the time, but I was still dancing along to it. And after that weekend, at the closing ceremonies of 2013, that's when I finally said, I think I'm a brony. And since then, I've just been very vested into it.
Now, you mentioned you go to a lot of cons.
Yeah.
For other types of cons, like what other types of things are you also into?
Anime and gaming, like any kind of game. It could be video games, it could be tabletop. The primary cons that I was going to were 3 anime cons in my area, which is Kineticon, another anime convention in what do you call it, Anime Boston. When PAX East started, and I was going Origins, moved over to Gen Con because it was much bigger and probably a little better structured. I mean, both of them were good, but I would prefer Gen Con over Origins. Now I'm at the point where I just go to both, say hell with it.
Alrighty. So your name, how exactly did that come about?
Oh my god. Okay. Stupidly, I will say that it was Basically, I know it's a thing everyone has to talk about their OC, but I'm just gonna say my OC has the only thing I created about it was the fact it was an art pony. One time, me and my friend, we were searching the internet, and those pre-generated, use your birthday, use your first name, blah blah blah, and it makes your pony name. And we were just joking around, looking at them, and then we hit one in particular. Place is haunted. Then we hit one in particular, and when I read it incorrectly the first time, but the incorrect term was snuggle trumpet, and me and my friend literally died laughing for like 10 minutes. And afterwards, I'm like, I don't care, it was from a name generator. I think it is the most hilarious thing. And so I decided to stick with it. And of course, the very, very, very next thing that was asked of me when I introduced myself as Snuggle Trumpet was, well, what's your secret power? What's your special talent? And I'm like, complete nonsense, because that's about how this came about. And if anyone knows me, that kind of fits the bill very well.
All right. All right, so you go to a lot of cons, and I know you have your own booth set up in the vendor hall. Tell us about how that got started.
Another mistake. This is literally this fandom in particular has been just a lot of things just fell in. What happened was BronyCon 2014. I decided to cosplay for the second year as my favorite character. I mean, 2013, I love Pinkie Pie, and it was really just I made a tail and I made a little earpiece for it, and it was Pinkie Pie in 2013. 2014, I decided to do something cute and turn Pinkie Pie into European football, American soccer, however you want to put this one, into a soccer player. So bought a jersey, and on the back, the name was Pinky. The number was the pie symbol because I'm a math nerd and thought it was cute. Put the balloons in front. I painted up the cleats and everything. And 2014, I had so many people ask me where I got the jersey, and I'm like, I kind of made it. And so as time went on, I sat on the idea, and I'm like, what if I made jerseys? I mean, this wasn't that hard to make. I mean, I hand cut everything, but I know there's some things that'll help me cut things out, and the letters were literally pre-cut for me. So I decided, heck with it, let's give it a shot. And so I tested it at my first official vending convention, which was PonyCon 2015, when we were inside the university, and we're on the fifth floor basketball court. And that's when I started selling jerseys. And since then, it's just grown. Now I changed my names a couple times. I mean, now it's like Snuggle Trumpet jerseys, so people know what I'm selling. I also do like shirts, dice, and dice bags on the side, just because they're easy to do along with what I do now.
Okay. Now, do you consider this like a job or something like you just do on the side?
I would have to say, as of now, actually, no, I would have to say overall, something I do on the side. My primary job is still tax accounting. I've been doing that for well over 10 years. And it's still something I do. I just finally moved on my own recently. So I would have to say a side job, but because tax accounting only happens from January to April, it is very well a second stream of income and a good excuse to kind of get out of the state here and there.
All right. So you are the leader, or what's the word I'm looking for? Thinking
Organizer?
Organizer, yes, for this meetup, the Boston Bronies. So how exactly did that come about?
So remember how I said everything in this fandom keeps falling in my lap?
Yes.
Okay. So 2013, after I had my first BronyCon, I had my first Boston Bronies meetup. I found meetup.com because after BronyCon, I was like, yes, I want to know if there's anything in my area. And I found this website, meetup.com, and they had something called the Boston Bronies. So I'm like, oh no, don't tell me this costs anything. And I'm like, it was free to join and everything. I'm like, okay, let's give this a whirl. And when I loaded it up, I think 2013 was our second year anniversary. let me see, what did we start? 2011 in July? 12? Yeah, second year anniversary.
15 was Applebuck, your first big one.
Yeah, that's right. So, 2013 was my first meetup. I made a really good friend there too, who I
14,
hang out with him.
Having 14.
2014? No, 13 was my first one. No, it's definitely
I
13.
missed the first Brony con.
Yeah, no, because I celebrate a friend anniversary still with
Yeah.
this person, and our friend anniversary was just last week. Um, but yeah, I made a really good friend there, and I was just regularly attending meetup groups. And around, I think, 2015, our organizer at the time was busy with other stuff. I think down in New Jersey or New York. I don't know, but I know it was far away to the point where we would they would organize some, but they wouldn't attend the events. So after a while, the events kind of started dwindling because the events kind of had no direction. And at the time, I kept when I first joined this meetup, I'm like, oh, I love this meetup, but I can never be an organizer. And then near the tail end of 2015, there was almost no events, nothing going on, and so I'm like, do I really want to do this? So, like an idiot, I decided to, in the early 2016, just start suggesting events because if you're not an organizer, you kind of just get suggested. You can only suggest events as a member, and if up to 3 people also say they're gonna go in, it just officially gets announced and it goes as a non-organizer meetup. So I made a Facebook and started getting people together. I mean, some of them went through, some of them didn't. Obviously, made my beginner organizing mistakes. And then late 2016, I guess, Hey Buck saw it. And all of a sudden, I find myself appointed as an organizer. So I had full control and kept doing it. I know in 2017 it was a little slow because of financial issues. But then all of a sudden, I think one of the big pivot points was Hey Buck discontinued himself. Hey Buck was our old organizer, by the way. Discontinued himself from the group entirely, meaning that it doesn't have an organizer, and if no one took claim of it, it would have just dissipated completely. Now, this is the point where it does cost a little money, but it's so little I don't even care. So I decided to take it on, and since then I've been trying to build it back up, kind of incorporating other events. So whether you're a brony or just a really big cartoon fanatic, you're always welcome. You don't even have to be a brony. Sometimes we just do things that have brony names, and we may talk ponies, but it's not all oriented towards that. Like our apple bucking, yeah, there's apple bucking in the show, but we all just go apple picking, and we may talk ponies, but anyone can join. And I always try to grow this group. We have like 15 members that rotate now consistently. I mean, here we have like the 15 all coming at once. Actually, no, those 3 that couldn't show. So probably a good 2 dozen members that rotate. And then I'm just trying to build it up so to have nice, healthy events so I could do bigger things. Like we could do a Christmas party somewhere, stuff like that, you know? But that's how getting getting organizers for this kind of fell in my lap.
All right, so back to the whole T-shirt thing. Now, how can you give me like explain how it works, kind of, or like if you had to recommend to somebody how they would do it?
This one I kind of let me see. With the t-shirts, I kind of just jumped in. No prior knowledge, nothing about it. I didn't even look up a YouTube video really outside of how to make these shirts. Um, and so now the process is pretty simple. I sit there. It's really, I have to cut out each color shape by shape and then set them onto the shirt. So things is like vinyl scratch is easy. It's one color, one shape. Just cut it out, press it in. I have a professional heat press. I have a big cutter in my room now that takes up space and I hate it, but where else am I going to have a workshop? And I just work in this little like 3x5 or 3x6 area, just printing up all the vinyl, the act of what's called weeding it, taking out all the negative space, pressing it onto the shirt. If it has more than one color, I have to layer it. I just make a bunch, take a guess at what I think the favorite size is, and go to a con with them prepackaged. And then people could make, because I could custom make everything from the bottom up, people do things like their own OCs and stuff like that. I now have a a really awesome artist I'm working with that'll just make the OCs, and then I could just they'll build it for me, and then I just have to cut it out in Photoshop into the individual colored pieces and press them in, and they come out really nice.
All right. All right. So about the ponies, I should ask. I feel like I should ask some questions about the show itself. So
God, don't let it be after season 5. But go
I'll,
for it.
I'll just I'll start with what you know so far. So when you got into the fandom and where it is now, how would you compare the two from what it once was to what it is now?
It hits. It finally, I think, hit that point of not steadiment. I can't think of the exact word where it's actually staying steady. It's self sustaining. It hit the point of self sustaining. Before it was a big boom because it was a big fad and everyone got into it. Like many other fads, it's like Pokemon. You had huge explosion, and then when they started coming out with Gen 3, you had the dip down, and now it's just the people who are into it because they like Pokemon. This has hit the same point. So when I first got into it, it was in that explosion because I was 2 years before BronyCon hit their 5 digits finally. Once it hit that, then everything started slowing down. Right now, it is actually, I believe, in a point of a very, very small growth, but self-sustaining, where I don't think it's going to really crash anytime soon. I know people are kind of panicking, oh God, next year, last BronyCon, but personally, it is sad, but at the same time, I am so immensely excited to see what comes from it. Uh, I I can't say for sure, but I believe that BronyCon has a plan after BronyCon. There are 3 other cons that already want to kind of pick up where BronyCon left off. And the cool part is they're in different areas. So one is like going to happen in New England area. One is happening in Midwest because BronyCon was really the only East Coast con outside of PhillyCon, but we haven't heard from PhillyCon until just recently, who's going to come back in 2020. I know they had one in 2016, which was pretty good, but it was really small. But I think, and then you had PonyCon New York, which had their final year because reasons of their own. So there's really, other than BronyCon, no East Coast, but now with the explosion of new PonyCons, I think it will scatter it around. And yes, BronyCon was big, BronyCon was awesome, but I think after we hit the 5 digits, BronyCon hit the point of, okay, I've attended BronyCon, now I just want to support my local con, which is why things like BabsCon in Everfree Northwest is starting to steadily grow, is because those are the big areas that a lot of the bronies came from, and instead of traveling halfway across the country, they just need to go like a short distance and still be in their area, and it's not so tiring.
All right. So on the subject of BronyCon, was it hard? Because I know some people are freaking out, like this is the last BronyCon, this is the end of the fandom and all of that. You did mention that it is possible that it could self-sustain itself, but like, what do you personally think?
I personally think that it's just because it's the end of the big one. The reason it's so hard on everyone is because it was also the first one. It was the one that brought everyone together, and it was it was just huge for a lot of the bronies because it was the only one in existence for the first couple years before you had the big explosion of like 20 of them in 2015. Um, but overall, I think let's see. Let me see how to word this. No, overall, I think yeah, it's gonna hit that self-sustain, and even though it may not be BronyCon the name, it'll still be BronyCon the team. Even if it's not the big organizers, because they may have decided to do. Actually, from what I understand, they decided to do this because they wanted to end BronyCon on a positive note, and I think it's that positive note that's going to lead way for things like that. I don't believe the fandom is dying. Um, I think a lot of them may be afraid of change, and we know Generation 5 is going to bring about changes, but also with changes comes all exciting new things they can do. Um, these are rumors that I'm hearing. I don't know if they're correct. I haven't been able to look at them myself, but from what I hear, I know they're hiring a team of people to keep things interesting. They're not just saying, okay, it's going to be Generation 5, let's just come out with another one. They know they have something, and yeah, we know why Hasbro is doing it, but at the same time, their what do you call it? Their improvements, or I can't think of words today. Mm, it's basically like a hand in hand. We're helping them with monetary value, keeping them alive, and they're helping us with giving us material in order to stay as this unit and grow stronger.
So, on the subject of the show, I know you haven't seen most of the episodes, but what would you say, like quality wise, like from season one to like where you are right now, like quality wise?
Well, I will say that
Because I know,
today was,
yeah, I know.
yeah,
'Cause you've seen like a few new episodes of like the current season now.
yeah, and I was watching it, and all I could say is how impressed I was with how the quality has improved. You know they care about the show. You know they want it to keep going, whether it's for money or for fun. Who cares? They want it to stay going, and it's showing in the work. I think they're making a lot of positive improvements on it. I love how the characters flow now. Like watching those two episodes. I want to go home and just watch these because I just love how everything is being animated now. Um, I mean, not to say it was bad before. I mean, that's what got us into it, but you could see that a lot of effort is being put into it now, which is why again, I'm saying that when the next generation comes out, I'm really excited to see what they do with it. I want to watch that animation. I want to see it grow even more and be more like you almost could just touch them on the TV because they just seem so genuine at that rate. So I would say definitely a lot better.
So, from out of all the characters, who would you say is your personal favorite?
As I said earlier, it's definitely Pinkie Pie. I love her optimism and everything about it. Um, it was, it's probably how many other bronies get to attach their favorite. You could just relate to the character so well. And one thing I love about this show is they come up with so many characters that you could relate to. Yeah, they have the main six, but you have characters that love all the background characters because they can relate to them in different ways. Whether you have Derpy or any other pony like that, but for me, yeah, I was always about the always looking to have fun, looking on the bright side. I mean, I may not always be the most optimistic person, especially when it comes to myself. When something's happening to me, like, oh God, I'm not gonna make a payment next week. God, and I hate everything. But when it comes to other people, I always say, no, this can happen. So there's a slight flaw in it, but either way, it's always that optimism I love looking at and just seeing all the things she do and just saying, oh man, I could relate to every one of that, everything that she does.
All right, interesting. So, how about the movie? What did you personally think about the movie? Seeing as it was the first movie for this generation,
The Pony movies or the Equestria Rules movie?
the movie,
Is
not the Equestria
the
Rules.
Pony movie. Got it. Yes, they're both Pony movies. But you know what I'm getting
I'll get to that one
at.
next.
Let me see. Um, I will say when I saw the trailers, again, I was excited for it, but at the same time, I was kind of nervous for it because they were bringing in different species of characters. Now, that's not particularly a bad thing, but it didn't mess around with how we know of the lore, and I was afraid that they were going to enter it in a very awkward way or stupid way or trying to be a Zootopia clone kind of thing. Yeah, Zootopia is amazing and everything, but if you try and clone the same thing over and over, it just starts getting stale. And I was afraid they were going to try and do that, but I think they did handle the characters very well when I watch it. I enjoyed it. I know a lot of people say they didn't like it so much. I will say maybe story wise, if I had to look at it from an analytical point of view, I truly hated how Twilight was portrayed with stealing that little pearl thing or whatever it's
Yeah, it's
called.
probably the one thing that I didn't like about it. I
Yeah,
was like, really?
I didn't like how it was portrayed, but I will admit when I started listening to analysts a lot, this was back at the time of Digibro and who's that other one?
Tommy Oliver?
Tommy Oliver. Yeah, I love listening to them, but I noticed the more I listened to them, the more critical I got on the show to the point where I was sitting there. I'm like, this isn't a good episode. This isn't every episode. I was saying this, and then I'm like, okay, when have I ever really cared about the deep down stuff? I really never have. So I reeled myself back and rewatched it in a different light. I'm like, no, I don't like it. It doesn't have to be perfect. I like it for like entertainment and things like that, even if continuity isn't always there. Philly Vanilli, anyone? Um, oh my god, that put me in a bad place. That was one I would say Pinkie Pie was so out of character, even though. But when I started looking at it in a different point of view, including Philly Vanilli, I started really liking the episodes again because I was watching it not to be critical of them, but I was watching it for the things I like seeing, just the pony fanatics and things happening and everything like that. So, relating back to the movie, when I watched it and just watched it from the view that I like watching it from, I enjoyed it very much. Yeah, there might have been some character mistakes, but overall, I had a lot of fun watching it. It was that emotional roller coaster you always look for in movies, and I thought it was great in the end. See, it could have used a little more screen time, but yeah.
All right. Where was it going? All right. Well, how about those other movies you mentioned? What do you personally think about the Equestria Girls?
I really wish I could have been there in the theaters for the very first one, especially when I heard it was sold out. And the stories that I heard from people was like they were questioning that it was sold out, and it was just a massive pile of bronies. But what had happened is I haven't even gotten through the first season when the Equestria Girls movie came out, and I'm sorry I missed it. When the second one came out, though, I was a little late for that one, but that one was brilliant. I do like them. I haven't seen after the third one so far. Of the first three, the second one is my all-time favorite, which is probably the popular opinion. And you know what? Popular, I'm gonna ride with it. I do love it. I think more or less for the music, like the music quality was so spot on, and you just want to sing along with everything all the time. The third one was good, with the exception of the motocross bikes. Middle high school's motocross bike. No, we don't do that. But no, the third one was good. And when I watched the first one after seeing the whole thing, I'm like, I can't say if this is good or not because of all the callbacks they make to the show. It was brilliant in that. Overall, is like rewatching the show over in a different light. I'll probably have to watch it again to kind of be like, okay, how does this look now that that initial appeal is over? But I like it. I want to see what is it, Legends of Everfree?
Yep, that's the fourth one.
That's the fourth one. I want to see that one. And I haven't seen any of the series, mini shows, or anything like that. I want to see those.
They've made a couple of 1 hour specials, as far as I know. So it's
Yeah.
almost like watching a movie, but at the
They've
same
done
time,
something with it. I haven't. I've been a terrible brony. I haven't been into the show a lot, but I think I'm in it a lot for the fandom. I enjoy the fandom way too much. Like going there and talking to the community. Yeah,
the community is great.
yeah. Like
Yes, it is.
why I'm doing this every time. Like I sit here and I'm like, oh my god, if I had to base this just off the show, I would wonder. But no, just being able to see people and have fun and talk about something that I'm at least familiar with. Because when I went to anime cons, I was kind of familiar with it, but unlike ponies, there are hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of anime. And did you watch Naruto? No. Well, this year's theme was Naruto, so can't help you there. But when you go to pony cons, even if you haven't watched after season 5, the worst that you're gonna miss is like I guess what they call the student 6. I'm like, I know spoilers of it because doing what I do, I kind of gotta know all the new characters. Yeah, I gotta be prepared to make a cutie mark of something that's popular. I haven't been very great on that, but you get the drift. So the student 6, I gotta look into them, see who's the popular one, but I want to watch it for that. But yeah, I would say overall.
All right, so you mentioned
enjoy them.
You also mentioned some YouTube bronies. Are there any like specific content creators that you particularly like?
Let's see.
It can either be an artist, a musician, or a YouTuber.
I'm trying to think of his name. He he was a community guest in 2017. I think he's from Australia. He's the funny one that barely made. He did a collab with Tommy Oliver once.
You're talking about Anthony C.
Yes, I love Anthony C. He puts so much work into all his videos, even if they're going to do one a year, the amount of times I rewatch it is enough for that year. Love Anthony C. work, even some of the side projects that I got to attend some of the panels on.
I thought you were going to mention Viva Riviere because he's also from Australia.
Oh, he's great too. Oh, I love his stupid Halloween shtick when he couldn't get the right damn costume on the right Halloween. Oh, that was so funny. just that end part. Oh, damn it! Oh my god, just had me rolling every time. Oh, the piano. Yeah, I know. Viva. He's great. I think he did some of the animation for some of Anthony C stuff too. It was great. And then music-wise, I love Everfree Team and all the music videos they do. The Cartoon Hero one was amazing. Everything they do when it comes to the techno music, I just love watching over and over again. They have like literally a 10-minute segment of it. It's just literally looping the same 45-second, but watching how they gave every pony a different dance in the foreground. It's just fun to watch. And then artist-wise, Earl of Rick, Rick of Air, sorry, Air of Rick, probably one of my ultimate favorite artists, especially that big piece he came out with what's that song, La Da Dee? Yeah, that whole thing, oh my god, cried at the end of that one. It was just perfect, and after I learned it was like a 4-year project, I'm like, you can tell. There's so much to it, and the story is so well written for having something which just music and animation, not even words. It was just so well written.
Alrighty. Trying to think of something else.
Community?
Wonderful community.
Yeah, so like at so at BronyCon, is there anyone in particular that you enjoy seeing every time or year round or anything like that?
Honestly, a bunch of my vendor friends. Every time my two closest is probably Sky RR and My Little Ties. I am usually room sharing with them every con. I just recently got to hang out with Bob Dude and View, two really awesome people. They're great together. Being able to hang with them. Unfortunately, Bob Dude can only work really during the summers, but I know next summer seeing him at BronyCon, it's going to be an absolute blast. See him at TrotCon, it's going to be an absolute blast. But yeah, it's really just most of my vendor friends, and I could just list so many. There's like Hobbs and Sweet Cream. There's oh my god, I just have to walk to a vendors hall, and I'm saying I stop at like 15 or 17 different booths saying hi. Out of Work Derpy, I got to work next to at TrotCon. He was fun to talk to, and then I saw him again at BronyCon. A lot of times I'll purposely not share tables with my friends because some of the vendor halls allow you to be like, okay, do you want to be next to a particular person? And as much as I love hanging out with Sky IR and My Little Ties, I will sometimes steer away just to increase my connections with people because the vendor community, just being in it, is so great.
And what about like the community guest wise, like Saber Spark, AC Race Best, Dusty?
Um, Not gonna lie, I don't watch their content very much. Let me see. Who's the one that's Saberspark? England, the one that's obsessed with Zootopia.
AC Race Best.
AC Race Best, yeah. He's a character I love watching. I know Saberspark's starting to do like all general animation stuff, so I want to start watching his stuff because of that. But as far as community guests, none I could really say offhand outside the ones who are becoming vendors, such as Dusty Cat. He's starting to do the little lunchbox guitars. Silver Quill, he's a blast to hang out with. Dr. Wolf, who's also an accountant, and he plays the character very well because he's very like calculating and exact and everything. And even though I'm completely the opposite, it is fun to like hang with him and stuff. Silver Quill is Silver Quill. He's just fun to listen to him talk and come up with things on the fly.
Yeah. So, with the fact that BronyCon is the only East Coast con that's ending, is that bad for vendors and artists and all that others and all the other people that go to BronyCon?
um, it may be bad for vendors who just do it locally or one time a year. Like I know there's a handful of plush artists that's the only con they do because it literally takes them an entire year to come up with that, and it's local to them because trying to tote that many plushies across the U.S. probably isn't easy. I don't know. I'm not in their craft. That's my guess, so don't exactly quote me on it. But yeah, I would say it was just mostly bad for the local vendors and local BronyCon or local PonyCon goers. Um, I know this year there was a lot of first time goers to BronyCon, so it kind of sucks that their first time had to be the second to last time. But if the whispers that I'm hearing are correct, there might be things replacing it to the point where they may not be the vendors. It may hurt a lot because they don't see that influx of 6,000 attendees coming through. The attendees, it won't hurt as much because I personally think smaller cons are better. Uh, just because of how close you can get to someone. Like seeing 6,000 people, sensory overload like hell. There's a reason why 90% of the time I'm either in the vendor hall or my hotel room. I like the community and everything, but I have this thing where sometimes I do get sensory overload, and they're like, okay, things have got to stop just for 5 minutes. I try to go into Brony Palooza, but I don't like where they put it anymore. 2014 or 15 was it? 15. 2015, absolute best Brony Palooza.
Yeah,
Oh
I
my
agree.
god, I was in there for the whole 6 hours both
It was
night.
closed off. That's
It was
why.
perfect. It was dark. It was perfect. Um, but going back to it, yeah, I think it hurts the local vendors. It won't have much of an effect on attendees if they come up with a new one. But for a lot of the other vendors, like a lot of the ones I mentioned, it's because I see them at so many cons. Like we're all over the U.S. Whether it be Everfree or BabsCon or TrotCon or BronyCon across the U.S., we're there. Some even go out of country. Like I know Sky RR and My Little Ties. Sky just recently went to England. My Little Ties went to Thailand, I believe. So for them, it's actually, or at least for Sky, it is a big part of his income. For My Little Ties, it's supplement to his income, but he has the stuff that he could actually roam around the country with. So, because of that, it would just primarily be people that either A are local or B count on that influx of 6,000 bronies.
All right. Now, is it hard traveling, like to like across the state as a vendor?
Cross states, yes and no. Um, if you're just taking a car, throwing your stuff in, no, not at all. Except when you start hitting like going from Boston to Dallas
Yeah.
to Wisconsin to Denver to Baltimore back home, and 60 hours of driving, and 4 weeks away from home. It starts to it starts to hit you a bit. Just exhaustion, not having a home cooked meal for an entire month. It really it brings down your morale a little. I will say that. If you're doing short trips, like if I was selling at TrotCon, it was literally me going down to Philadelphia, hang a day with Sky, go to TrotCon, spend the weekend, and then come back home. Those are easy. Going cross country for a trip, a little harder because shipping your stuff is crazy, but if you can get it all into 2 bags and just have the planes take care of it, it's very easy. Just make your stuff, pack it all in, get on the plane the day before, sleep that night, set up Thursday, have the weekend, stay a couple days extra because it's not going to take you 40 hours to get home. And so it just depends on how you do it. This year, I will say I finally, for the first time, hit my con overload. It was not even at a con I was vending at. It was just a con that was supposed to be for fun. But what had happened is I had one small con and four big cons in a row, and it was on the fourth big con because usually it's like small con, big con, small con, big con, a little break, small con, which is fine. But four big cons in a row. It was at that last con where I just stayed in my hotel room because it was just way too much conning, which doesn't normally happen because I try to pace it. But when you do four vending cons, that's when it starts hitting you. I think four is the magic number. Anything after that is a no.
Alrighty. Do you have any advice for people that want to travel? Maybe maybe this con's ending. Maybe they'll go to another con or something like that.
Um, hmm. Don't. My best advice would probably be don't overestimate your things. Don't think, oh my God, this is my first con. I'm going to sell so much because you're going to make a lot of stuff. You're going to kill your stuff making the stuff. You're going to kill yourself getting there, lugging all this big stuff, and then having to lug 7/8 of it back home because you thought you were going to sell 10,000 pieces to 10,000 bronies when the reality you were only going to sell 170. Take your time. Know your limits. That is another big one. Please don't. I could do many cons in a row because I'm naturally hyperactive and I just run on pure adrenaline. I can't have coffee or anything like that. I just have to run on friggin' adrenaline and dreams. But know your limits. Start with a local con. Start small and grow. Unless you think you have something that's going to explode all over, start small, see how things are going, test your limits a little, but don't go way beyond them. Don't be like, oh, I've never gone more than a week away from my home. I'm going to do 4 cons in a row. No, that's a bad idea. That's a really bad idea. Start with maybe 2 cons in a row. And if you make it survive those 2 cons, then you could probably creep to 3. Just make sure that third one's smaller. Yeah, just know your limits and don't overestimate because it's very discouraging. Always expect your first con to break even or lose money. Don't expect a profit. Don't expect to be walking away with hundreds of dollars saying, oh God, I'm going to be able to pay for a new car after this. Expect to lose money, expect to break even, and learn from your mistakes. Right. You do best by learning. And talk to other vendors. They won't give you every secret under the sun, but I will give general information. I'll give you a whole slew of stuff. You're a first-time con goer, you're a first-time vendor. I'll tell you a lot of stuff that you need to hear. A couple things all of us are obviously going to admit because it took us way too long to learn, and we rather charge for information like that. But but most of the stuff is doing a little research, but we're giving you the TLDR and kind of saving you a little the headache because overall we want you to succeed because it's new friends, it's new people to talk to. The vendor hall is always in this constant cycle. You got the old going out, you got the new coming in. I mean, Silver Slinger, for instance, has left, from what I understand, and he's just doing things from his house now. He still sells, but he doesn't go to cons and doesn't do anything like that. So now that's room for someone new to come in. Don't ever think that just because you're coming into a late, oh no, it's too late. You never know. What's the point unless you take a chance? As long as it's not going to put you in financial ruins, why not? You might have fun. You might learn something. You might find out it's not for you. And the best part about it is if you don't make a big deal to enter it, it's not a big deal to leave it. Like the first time I did it, I had a small inventory of like 150 jerseys. I mean, now I'm hitting the point where I take about 320 with me every time, but I started small. I sold out of a couple things. I was happy. I actually did make money. It wasn't a lot. It was about $200, but I was proud. I was happy about it. I'm like, yeah, we'll do with this. And I had a little product left, and I continued it. And now it's become a big fiasco for me because this past year has put me very behind in it. But it's something I'll crawl out of, and when I do, I know I'll be fine. And I've already put things into place to prevent it for next time. So even though I've been doing this for 3-4 years, I still make mistakes, and you're gonna make mistakes. Have a contingency plan. You'll be fine.
All right. This one's about the future of the show. You've seen a lot of spoilers and possible leaked art on
A little bit of leaked out.
Do you think it'll be good? Do you think it'll be bad? Or are you indifferent?
I'm very indifferent. The leaks are just ideas they have. None of it's in stone. I mean, I like a lot of what they're doing with it. The leak that I saw mostly was the one of having 4 or 5 variants of the characters. And I'm excited for a lot of the variants, except maybe one. Please don't be too frilly, God's sakes. Um, but where they're looking to take it, what they're looking to do, yeah, this race changes. Yeah, they're doing a full reset. Whatever. I want to see it. Twilight Sparkles and Earthpoint. That sounds very interesting, actually. To be 100% honest, it sounds very interesting. But no, like I may be indifferent, but I'm excited to see it. I want to see what they do. For better or for worse, I'll probably still watch it, stick with it. But I don't think there will be a for worse. I think it's just all good things coming.
All right. Something about conventions. I know that you mentioned there might be like a couple smaller ones, and you may have mentioned that you might be running one.
I'm thinking of it. I mean, the big joke online right now is I think Charlie put this one up and I thought it was just hilarious. He's putting the year by year comparison of all the different cons. He's like 2015 25 cons, 2016 19 cons, like 2018 has 12 cons. 2019 BronyCon last year 11 cons. 2020 90 million cons because everyone wants to take out the BronyCon. Um, I am playing with the idea. I haven't really set it in stone. I'm kind of just waiting to see. I am working. I am looking to do my own con. Actually, I'm going to do my own con this March, which is just a general like animation con. It's not specific to anything other than not anime because there's too many anime cons. But all animation in general. See how that goes. See if I could even run a con. I mean, it's
You seem to know.
it's a fun
You
risk
seem
I'm
to
taking.
know like certain things about running a con.
Except for VIPs, yes. I know nothing about VIPs, and I'm trying to ask a couple of my closer friends if they would help me out with that. But no, like, I have volunteered many conventions. I've been assistant manager and manager of registration. I've worked box office. I've dabbled a little in programming. I mean, yes, it's not a con, but it was a con all the same of having to do all the planning. It's just on a micro scale. Um, I have so many people behind me that are willing to help and very grateful for it because I swear if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have even thought of doing this. But it was literally an idea I had. I'm like, I'm thinking of doing just a general animation con, and I had literally like 6 people just jump on me and say, "What do you need? What do you want me to do?" And I'm like, I just thought of it. I haven't, and like just the backing, just their positive energy kind of pushed me forward because I'm not gonna lie. Every time I think that I'm gonna be doing my own con, I get very nervous and just a little scared because this is a venture I've never tried. Um, it is a big financial investment. I can lose like my budget is like $18,000. I can lose all of that, and that's if no one shows, obviously. There is so much to it, so much I'm worried about. But you know what? Um, I'm planning saying the first year is going to be small. I know a lot of conventions in the past have made the mistake of, oh, this is going to be 1,000-person con, and then they only get 150 people. So I'm sitting here expecting 250 people, budgeting for 250 people. If it grows, yay, made a little profit. If it doesn't, whatever. And really, this is just segue. If this works out and I don't go absolutely insane, I'm looking to possibly open up a nonprofit and give back to a community that honestly has given to me for a very long time. Cons were always a way for me to escape from reality. They still are. But like a healthy escape. Like I know reality's there. I know I have to deal with it. But every once in a while, it's good to just be like, you know what? This weekend, I don't care what's happening. I'm here to have fun. Um, so they've been always an escape for me. They've molded who I am now. Otherwise, I'd still probably be very depressed in my room. And this would probably be, if I can make this happen, a good way to give back. And I'm very hopeful it does work just for that.
All right. And I guess my final question would be, how do you see the future of this particular meetup group?
I think even if it doesn't grow, the 20 or 30 of us that just keep coming back, doing shenanigans, even if we don't see each other every day or every week, if it's once a month, I just think we'll just all be really good friends for a very long time because of it. Chatting online, coming up with random things to do, even if we don't have an official meetup group anymore. I know that some of us will just plan out little things to do and be like, "Hey guys, I'm gonna think of going apple picking. Let's all go." So, but I am hopeful that the next generation of ponies stop bringing it back. It's something I don't want to do, but if I have to broaden horizons to kind of keep us together, maybe. It's still kind of, I think Bronies are just our own little thing, and I might just keep it separate and be like, you know what, I'm also going to make an animation group, but that group will be the animation group. If we're part of both, we're part of both. But if you just want to stay Brony, we'll just stay Brony. So I'm going to say we're probably going to be doing this for a very long time, regardless of if it's organized or not.
All right. Well, thank you, Rob Snuggle Trumpet, for joining me on this interesting exclusive podcast live from cabincon.
No problem.
Thank you all for joining me.
You're
And I was going to say something silly, but I can't think of anything right now. So, see you guys later.